Well, hello everybody. Welcome to our latest Cruise to Travel Expo live talk. I want to welcome you, and we're glad you're here. Our host, we're hosted today by Mr. Ryan Grissett, the Regional Sales Director for Collette Tours. Collette is a long-time company in the United States, and Ryan is actually one of the people I've worked with the longest since I've been in this industry. So for me, it's always good to see Ryan's smiling face, and I want to welcome you to the show.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
So what are you going to tell us about Collette?
Well, I figured I'd give you a little background on Collette, and then I would touch on Alaska. Our land product we've seen quite a considerable uptick in the last few months on our land product in Alaska. And then I'll touch on South Dakota, which is actually, we've run 3 South Dakota tours in the last month and hopefully anticipate running a couple more in August. It's slowly but surely. We're running a couple of tours, but South Dakota has been one we've been able to operate. And then I figured I'd conclude with the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, because it's one that's tied to a special event. So I figured that'd be a good one to conclude with.
Sweet. Let me just cover a little bit of housekeeping. I know some people on the call are used to, sometimes we've done Zoom meetings in the past, and so everybody was on, and this is a webinar, and we do that, number one, so that people can register in advance, which makes a big difference. But you can still ask questions, so you can type it down into the Q&A box or the chat box, and I'll monitor them, and then as we get to the end, I'll relay those questions to Ryan. Also, at the end, if you just let me know, I can promote you to a panelist, and you'll have your video come up, and you can interact and ask all the questions you like. So again, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. And Ryan, take it away. Tell us about those trips.
All right. Well, I'm going to share my screen here.
All right.
And tell me when you're seeing it. I was going to. Are you seeing it now, Michael?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Oops, there we go. All right, folks. Well, again, I want to thank Michael for having me as a guest today. I absolutely love talking about travel. I'm absolutely excited to get back to the norm, and I'm hoping that's sooner rather than later. I don't mind these Zoom meetings, but I like meeting folks in person and shaking hands and seeing everyone's face-to-face. But with that being said, just give you a little background on Collette and then jump into the tours. We're a tour operator that we just turned 102. We were started in 1918. We are based in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. A gentleman named Jack Collette started us back after in 1918. And then he ran Collette until 1962, when he had no kids, but he sold the company to the Sullivan family out of Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and it has remained in their family since 1962. So it's a company that is run like a family-owned company and operated like a family-owned company, and is we're now entering our 4th generations of Sullivans that are working at Collette. So it's an exciting time to be at Collette. But with that being said, we are a 4-star operator. That means everything's 4 stars, from hotels to motor coaches. If we're partnering with a cruise company for either ocean cruises or river cruises, attractions, everything that we visit is going to be 4 stars, including restaurants as well. So that's what you're getting out of this is a 4-star experience from start to finish. Whenever you're switching hotels, one of the things I always like to point out is that we will move your suitcase from hotel to hotel. I joke in my presentations that you pick the last time you pick up your suitcase is coming out of baggage claim, and the next time you pick it back up will be going back into the airport to fly back home, because we handle it along with the hotel staffs in each hotel if we have to move. Now, I will tell you on South Dakota is our Spotlight tour, so that's only 1 hotel stay, so it is a little bit less than some of our others, but that's the gist behind the Spotlight tours, which I'll touch on in a couple of slides. One of our pillars is cultural experiences, cultural immersion. That is, when you're investing in an experience like a tour, whether it be to South Dakota or Alaska, or to Ireland or Australia, New Zealand, we want you to become enriched in the culture. And we have designed these tours with culture immersion in mind, with the, when we're going for dinner, or if we're visiting different sites, we want you to be able to interact with folks as well as have those experiences so that you can share those and put them on social media, or just be able to tell your friends and actually have some phenomenal memories. Professional tour manager, I always touch on this and spend a minute on it because quite frankly, I think it's the most important part of going on a guided tour is the tour manager. It doesn't matter how well Collette does in building it, or how well Michael and the other agents do selling it and servicing it. The tour manager is the key component to a vacation when you're going on a guided tour. They are going to be a tremendous resource for you to go on. If you have free time, they can give you suggestions. If you're looking for a particular souvenir, they can help you find it. If you want to know more about art, architecture, history, culture, anything, they are going to be that person. It's kind of like traveling with a friend. And I always like to also add that if you run out of money, they're also going to know where the nearest ATM is so that you can buy some more souvenirs. So that's the main advantage of a tour manager. Ours primarily are our employees. There are certain parts of the world, such as South Africa, Israel, Costa Rica, where you have to use local tour managers as your full-time guides, but we've vetted them and trained them so that they know the Collette way. And we want to keep it very similar no matter where you go in the world with us. So that's a huge advantage of going on a guided tour is having those tour managers. And they're with you from the beginning of the tour until the end. They stay at the same hotels. They eat the same meals. They check you in to both hotels and ships and attractions. It's kind of like traveling with a friend. And it's just a great way to experience a tour. And the last couple of points before I jump into the destinations, we do bring on local expert guides where needed, whether it be on a panoramic city tour or or an attraction that we feel would benefit you as our guest to learn more about a destination or an attraction. And I've been fortunate enough to be with Collette for almost 10 years and been on, I think, 18 Collette tours. And these are some unbelievable characters. I'll give you an example. We had this one gentleman that was on and when I actually got to have him twice, because I've been to the UK twice with Collette, but in London, he's typically our local guide, and he was a soap opera star in London, and now he does their panoramic city tours, and they're just characters. They're people that are very experienced, but it's experienced. They know the culture, they know everything, but they add that extra layer of just knowledge to our tours. And then just to wrap up, whenever you're going on a guided tour with us, anytime we're visiting an attraction, that we already take those entrance fees are already taken care of. You're not sitting in line waiting to go into an attraction or into a place that we're visiting. We get that preferential access, which is the huge advantage of going on a guided tour. An example I typically use is the Vatican. If you're visiting Vatican City while in Rome, those lines can be 3, 4, 5 hours long. If you have it at entrance fees and the tickets aren't pre-purchased as a part of the tour, you're walking right in. So it allows us to be able to experience more because we're not waiting in those lines. And then finally, on tour transportation, with motor coaches or with riverboats or cruise ships or trains, it's going to be comfortable. They're going to be newer. For example, our motor coaches are the rule we have no matter where you go with us in the world, and we go to all 7 continents, is that that motor coach has to be 3 years old or newer. So you are going to enjoy a nice, comfortable, state-of-the-art motor coach wherever you travel with us. And we don't pack folks in there like sardines. In normal times, if we have a 44 passenger tour, it's on a 52 to 53 person motor coach. And I'm actually going to get into our traveling well protocols that have come up because of recent events in a second here, but that it is comfortable. They're all typically are brand new motor coaches. And the beauty of it is, if you've ever been on a tour, most of the motor coach drivers that we deal with, they treat these motor coaches like their own. They're keeping them clean. They're fun way to see parts of the world that we're visiting. So, and finally, professionally planned itinerary. We utilize not only our tours that we've already built, but we utilize feedback from guests that allow us to improve the offerings that we have. We have 162 tours, and we want those to be the best experiences for our guests. So we take the feedback and we ask you about everything, the hotels, the meals, the tour manager, everything, so that we can improve on that. And we're constantly updating our tours, the flow of the tour, and the majority of those changes are based off of the feedback that we get from folks that travel this. And there's a couple that we don't have to touch. Shades of Ireland is our #1 selling tour, and we're rarely having to make changes to that tour because people love it. Now, if there's newer tours and there's some kinks to be worked out, we'll utilize that feedback and we'll update them. So anyways, you can feel secure traveling with us all around, but those itineraries have been researched and we've done our due diligence. So with that being said, before I get into destinations, one of our new protocols is our traveling well experience. This has come about obviously due to COVID-19, and I just wanted to show one slide on, we're doing plenty of things ahead of time, making sure our tour managers are trained, making sure folks actually have in their documents get a health declaration to sign and send in. We send you a mask, and I joked in a training that I did earlier today, or a show I did earlier today. We send you a mask, but also you might want to bring your own mask so that you're color coordinated with the outfits that you're wearing that day. So you're more than willing to bring your masks. We'll provide you with them, and our tour manager, if you misplace them or lose them, our tour manager will have plenty. One of the things that you can do is monitor your symptoms. Our tour managers are going to be trained to see what signs are, but we're also asking that every guest monitor their own symptoms. You're actually going to get a little thermometer where you can take your temperature to make sure that we're not seeing a rise in that. And then the other two things is, wash your hands. We're normally making sure that there's opportunity for folks to wash their hand, but we're taking it the next step. There's going to be hand sanitizer everywhere on the tour manager's person, in the motor coaches. There'll be hand sanitizer. And then finally, just maintain a respectable physical distancing. Just, we've been talking all about it for the last couple of months, social distancing. We're taking a look at every aspect of these tours, and we're making sure that that's able to be done. And we've run, as I said earlier, we've run a couple of tours in July. We'll run a couple in August, and it's allowing us to perfect this. And we're taking the feedback. And so far, so good with the folks that have traveled with us. And we've gone to South Dakota. We've done our American Cowboy Country, as well as Mackinac Island. So we've been able to put this into motion. And so far, so good from the folks that have traveled us in the month of July into August. We got a trip leaving tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So with that being said, last thing before the tour, I always like to put this up there because it's some of my favorite experiences and memories have come from, have come from our foundation. The Collette Foundation is an employee-run foundation that we feel very strongly at Collette that we should give back to the places that we visit, the communities, the people, the travel, and overall the planet. But I've been fortunate enough to visit an orphanage in Peru, a school that has its own little band in the outback of Australia. There's many places that we give back to, and we'll incorporate that into some of our tours. And I'll tell you what, and I mentioned ad nauseum earlier how we have you rate everything. I will tell you that these are some of the highest rated tour experiences, and they are some of my favorite memories of traveling the world with Collette. So I always like to point that out, and it'll be in the itinerary if there is a visit like that. But it's a great way to give back to the areas that we're fortunate enough to visit. So with that being said, I got 3 tours that I wanted to cover today, and I'll obviously answer questions on any of them. But the first one is Alaska and the Yukon. The second one is going to be spotlight on South Dakota, and finally we'll conclude with the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. But I'll just hit some highlights and through each one. But the first one is Alaska and the Yukon, and I was chatting with Michael before this. Alaska and the Yukon, we're seeing quite an uptick in bookings and in interest for 2021, Alaska and the Yukon. And we've had, Alaska is on a lot of folks' bucket lists, and a lot of folks will go to Alaska and go on a cruise. So I've seen 2 different types of folks that go on this tour. One, they've already done the cruise and they want to see a little bit more. They want to dive a little bit deeper into the culture and and the nature and the wildlife in Alaska. And the others, some folks just didn't want, they want to do it a little bit differently. So they, instead of doing the cruise, they're doing this as well. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I have a group that was unbelievably disappointed that they could not go on this tour this year. I think there was 36 of them from Winston-Salem, and they've already signed up. All 36 moved to a date next year, and they can't wait to go. But I think 34 of the 36 have already been on an Alaskan cruise. So this is a way for them to see the rest of that part of the world, which is absolutely gorgeous. And one of the questions I tend to get on Alaska is, when's the best time to go? We typically only run our Alaska product from mid-May, which is technically end of May, through beginning to mid-September. I myself, if I was going to go, I would probably look in mid-June through mid-August. It's just an unbelievably beautiful time to go. The days are going to be nice and mostly warm, but it could cool off a little bit as we get into the evening, particularly late at night. But it's nice to get out of our part of the country, out of this humidity, and go visit a place like Alaska and cool off a little bit. So just a quick 30,000 foot view of what we'll see on this tour. We fly in and out of Alaska. We'll spend the first 2 nights in Alaska. Then we're going to head northeast up to Talk. We will have a little a cruise out through Prince William Sound before we'll embark and disembark on that little ship in Whittier, which, if you've ever been on an Alaska cruise, quite a few of them, almost all of them, go through Whittier, and either with embarkation or disembarking. So then we'll head from Talk. We'll stay a night and go down to Whitehorse. We will make a little visit to Skagway. We'll head up to Dawson City with a quick little pit stop in Carmacks. And then we'll conclude our tour by heading west back. We'll make a little stop in Chicken, Alaska, and then we'll spend a couple nights in Fairbanks. We will get the ultimate treat of riding down to Denali on the train, where you get to see some stunning landscapes, and I'll show you a couple of pictures on that. And then we'll finish up in Anchorage and then fly back home. So with that being said, a couple of spots we'll see. Anchorage is where we start and finish, and that picture was most likely taken towards either probably in the spring or the fall, because you'll still see some white caps on the top of those mountains as we get into the summer, but you won't see as much snow on the ground if you'll see at the bottom of the picture. But unbelievable beauty, even in Anchorage. So this is the first day. The second day we'll take a little cruise out in the Sound and get our first taste of the surroundings. And this is Prince William Sound. There's a couple of the locals there. We'll see unbelievable amount of wildlife on this trip. I'll tell you, I would liken Alaska from a wildlife standpoint with a couple other my favorite stops, and that would be one is going to be Costa Rica, and the other one is Africa. And I think Alaska is right up there with both of those from a wildlife standpoint. And you'll see everything from, depending on what time of year we go, in the early part of the summer or latter part, you see some whales, you'll see seals, you'll see elk, bear, just a wide array of different animals. So there's a shot, there's Talk. We're going to spend this will be our second stop. And this is where, that's absolutely, it almost looks like a mirror, that lake that we'll take a couple of pictures on. It's one of the national parks that we're going to stop at. This is the Wrangell St. Elias National Park. And then there's the Kluane National Park, just unbelievable scenery. And we'll be able to stop and take some pictures of some of these spots. But and then there's Whitehorse. So there's a picture that looks like it's a little bit more during the time that we go, a little more towards the latter part of the spring, early fall, or early summer. We'll make a stop in the port town, or in Skagway, which is right on the water. And then one of the spots that we'll stop and take a couple of pictures, this is Five Finger Rapids, and this is out towards the eastern part. This is actually in Canada, where 5 islands, and you can see a couple of them right there, divide this river into five channels. So they call it Five Finger Rapids. This is Dawson City. So this will be our a spot where we stay for a couple evenings. And then after that, on our way, as we head west towards Fairbanks, we make a little pit stop at Chicken, Alaska. So it's a little mining town, but that's looks like that's their that's probably the most photographed chicken in Alaska, is that guy right there. And then we will come into Fairbanks for a couple of evenings. So you get both, not only Anchorage, but you also get Fairbanks on this tour. And then while we're there, we'll take a little behind the scenes, take a look at the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, as well as take a sternwheeler cruise during the day. And then that evening, we actually have an all-you-can-eat. So if you like salmon, you're in for a treat, because it's all-you-can-eat salmon steaks. And I love salmon. I don't know if I could have more than 2, though, but it's an opportunity we have during that. But then we're going to ride the train, which, as you can see, has stunning views. And then this is one of the sites that you'll see as we roll into Denali. In Denali National Park. So you'll also get to see a couple of national parks. I always kind of a little public service announcement. A couple years ago, we were on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and whenever you're going on tours with us, we always stop in the visitor center, particularly in these national parks. If you don't have one already, they have a little booklet that you can get stamps in. My kids have them, and they absolutely love them. And my wife and I got one too, kind of to share our journeys. And every one of these visitor centers has a little stamp, so it's neat to do that. So if you do have quite a few national parks on your bucket list, it's a neat little, they call it the passport. So grab that the next time you're in a national park in one of their visitor centers. It's worth it. But and then this is one of the spots before we get down back into Anchorage. We'll stop at Talkeetna, which is another little absolutely gorgeous area. That looks, if you like fly fishing, that'd be one of the spots to go. And then that is kind of, we'll wrap up in Anchorage, but the scenery that you'll see is unlike any other, quite frankly, in Alaska. And whether you've already been there on a cruise and you want to dive into it a little bit more, you just want to see Alaska and a little bit of Western Canada, this is probably the trip for you. So with that being said, I kind of head a little bit southeast, not a little bit, a lot, to South Dakota. This is one of our spotlight tours, and our spotlight tours were designed with one hotel stay. So you're unpacking one time. This is a 7-day tour. And we do South Dakota, we do Washington, D.C. and New York City. We do Santa Fe, New Orleans, just to name a few. And then we do some international as well. We do London, Paris, Barcelona. And the whole concept was designed behind unpacking one time. And I will tell you, we incorporate a lot of our spotlight tours into other tours, but we're able to dive deep into that particular area. Spotlight on London allows you to dive deeper into London than what you get if you were going to visit the entire UK. So it's a neat concept. And a couple of these destinations are tied to areas where we would be able to jump onto cruises either before or after. So Barcelona, London, because you can get down to Southampton, New Orleans, all of them that have some ports around them. So if you're partnering when you're partnering with your travel agent, you want to double up. This would be a good opportunity to go in earlier, to stay a little bit later in some of these destinations. So no cruises around South Dakota, quite frankly. But with that being said, one pack, one time, 6 nights. We stay in Rapid City, and we're going to hub and spoke on this particular tour. We're going to get out to Deadwood. We're going to go to Devil's Tower. I'll show you a picture of that. I'll be able to incorporate our choice on tour with that one. We're going to spend a day going out to Custer State Park and then see some scenery out there. Another day, we're going to do Crazy Horse and Mount Rushmore together. And then we're going to finish, and one other day we'll head out to the Badlands, and we'll stop in Wall, which is home of Wall Drug, dating back to 1936, a store that's still standing and pretty much in the same shape, or the same atmosphere and shape that it was in 1936. So it lets you step back into time a little bit. But with that being said, Rapid Cities is our base for this particular tour. It's an area that, I'll tell you what, highly underrated, South Dakota. I used to go, I've been there on vacation once, but I countless times in my professional career, I've been to South Dakota because it used to be a part of my territory in my last position. And whoops, I forwarded ahead. South Dakota is full of not only scenery, but culture. And we're going to see that over the course of the next couple of slides, and a heavy influence by Native American Indians, as well as I think that, our government has done a great job of putting some great monuments, which you're going to start to see. So this first one is the Crazy Horse. The actual monument is in the back, is the main picture, and you'll see how large this is. I'll put this into scope. You see some of the trucks and some of the excavating the diggers, the equipment, digging equipment is right down there. So you'll see that it's absolutely amazing. But it's an unbelievable monument. I think this picture is probably dated about 2 years, because they now are down to the top of the horse's head. And one thing, if you're a student of history, anytime these Mount Rushmore had the same problem, they constantly are running out of funding for these particular for this particular monument. So they'll work on it for a while, then it'll be a while before you see those excavators come back. Or so it's kind of funny, but when it's done, it's going to be a sight to see. And it's the little inset picture here is what they intend on it to look like in the long run. So and then this is the visitor center for Crazy Horse. It's absolutely stunning. Look at that woodwork. Is one of the things that you'll see that we'll visit while we're there. Next stop is going to be Mount Rushmore. So you get to see President Washington and Jefferson, Roosevelt, as well as Abraham Lincoln. So that'll be one of our stops. And also we'll get to, the Badlands, absolutely gorgeous. I mean, amazing that nature made this for us in our country. And one of the things I like to say, and this is very similar, I think, to the American Southwest, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, with some of their land formations, I see very similar, in my opinion, some similarities to those, where I think you could take this picture, I don't know, at 12 o'clock and then come back at 7 and get an entirely different picture because of the hues and how the sun or the dark is affecting the colors on these land formations. So, and then while we're out and about in the Badlands, we're going to head out to, we'll stop in Wall, South Dakota, which is home to Husted's Wall Drugstore. And this dates back to 1936. And it's a neat little stop. Folks love it. There's some characters in there. You can get everything from fudge to ice cream. It's just a neat little stop. And you can see our tour manager coming out there with a busload of our folks. So, and then one of the days we're going to head out, and this is going out to Devil's Tower. So we'll actually get into Wyoming. So you get 2 states, not just one. But we will go out to Devil's Tower, and this kind of gives us our first opportunity to choice on tour. And we give the opportunity to go out and do a Tower Trail hike, or you can stick around and dive a little bit deeper into the visitor center exploration. But a choice on tour for us is something that came about a couple years ago to allow folks to customize their experience. In the past, it was, hey, we're doing this tour. It's it starts this day, it ends this day, and everyone does the same thing. We've started to incorporate some free time into our tours, as well as choice on tours, so that folks can incorporate. I know I took my wife on a tour last year, and she chose a different choice than I did one day. So I think she might have wanted to get away from me for a day. So with that being said, a couple other sites before wrapping up and going into Albuquerque's Balloon Fiesta. One that we'll see, take a ride along Needles Highway. There's a little shot of why they call it Needles Highway. It's kind of from those land formations. And then we will make a stop in Custer State Park. If you ever saw the movie National Treasure with Nicolas Cage, National Treasure 2, this was part of it, Custer State Park, because they came out to Mount Rushmore, but it almost gives the impression that it's right behind it. But Custer State Park's a little bit of a drive away, but this is where part of that movie was filmed. National Treasure 2. So just that's a little trivia fact there. And then what would a trip to South Dakota be without a stop in Deadwood? An old Western town, lets you kind of step back in time, see some of the shops. There's saloons, little bars, there's shops, and they actually have some reenactments throughout the day to step back into time. So it's a neat little a great little fun day is to visit Deadwood. And then we'll do our farewell dinners, a Western show and dinner, where you get some great entertainment, but as well as some great food, which I would guarantee would include some hearty steaks or chicken or fish. You always get the option with us in meals. So with that being said, that's South Dakota. And the last tour I wanted to cover, because I think we started running this about 5 years ago. The Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta is one of those experiences that is, quite frankly, until you see it in person, I think it's absolutely stunning. It's 6 days, includes 7 meals. We fly in and out of Albuquerque, but we also are able to get up to Santa Fe, which is the state's capital, for a couple of days. And I'm going to cover both, but it starts in Albuquerque. And those are the 2 main towns that we're going to get to visit in New Mexico. I will not only are we seeing balloons, we'll also get to dive a little bit into their culture. I think one of the really neat parts about New Mexico in the Southwest, as I mentioned their land formations a couple minutes ago, the architecture is going to be very influenced with the adobe. So you get to see that on their, with some houses. We'll see one of the Pueblo dwellings that we'll get to see, as well as just their normal architecture is very heavily influenced by the Native Americans, but also by the folks that settled there years and years ago. But the reason we're going is the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, and you're going to get to see tons of balloons. Look at that. That's some of the sites that you're going to get to see. Look at hundreds of balloons, and they don't come just from the U.S. And this is the kind of bittersweet part about it. They ended up canceling the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta this year, and part of it was because they get a lot of international folks that come in, ship their balloons, and they're coming in for the actual Balloon Fiesta from international, and they weren't going to be able to come in this year. So the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, in my opinion, did the right thing. It stinks kind of for the tourism industry, but it was the right thing to do for all the folks that are going to visit them, but also that participate in this. And you'll see all kind. It's kind of like going to a parade in the sky. I mean, you see, just looking right there, you see a Home Depot's got a balloon, and all these different vendors, but also just normal folks that aren't advertising anything, and that's the vast majority of them. And the colors is like a kaleidoscope, so it's a great experience. And then this is Old Town Albuquerque, which we'll spend a little bit of time in, and have opportunity to, you have free time to go explore on your own, visit some of the different spots. And what would a trip out west be without a little bit of a journey on Route 66? So Route 66 is one of those just historic roadways of the U.S. And if you have any kids or grandkids that like the movie Cars from Pixar, this is the animated Cars film. This is where it predominantly took place, is on Route 66, and you'll get to see take a little ride on that route. And then we actually will go back at night, because they light up quite a few of the balloons will go up at night, and that's a sight to behold as well. So. And then we will head up to finish a couple nights up to the state capitol. This is the actual state capitol. The state capitol is Santa Fe. So we'll visit the state capitol. We'll get to visit some of their little shops in Santa Fe. But I think the highlight is to go and see a Pueblo village, as well as we'll take a visit to the Santa Fe School of Cooking. So you get to learn a little bit more about some of the Southwestern cuisine, how it's prepared. And you don't have to eat it if it's not good, if you cook your own. I wouldn't eat my own, but they'll have some professionally cooked if you don't do good at cooking like me. So with that being said, just kind of wrapping up on Albuquerque, and I just had 2 other points before I bring Michael back in. And whenever you travel with us in group forms, we do a hometown pickup. And if you're traveling with us individually and you're taking our air, if you're within 75 miles of the 90, I think it's 2 or 93 major airports, we'll pick you up at home. That's part of it if you do our air, and those major airports are throughout the country. And Michael and his team were able to help you and let you know if you qualify for that. If not, you get a credit. And then as advantage, the reason I always advocate to work with a travel agent is because they're able to help you personalize your adventure. I mean, whether it's upgrading your air, dining experiences that are options. Additionally, optional excursions. We don't have many, but they're able to walk you through the ones that are available. And then if you want to go in early or stay late or take advantage of any extensions on tour we have, that's why you want to partner with a travel agent, that they are able to help you personalize that experience. And then just to wrap up, because I think this is more important now than ever, and I know that the almost all of Michael and his team's folks travel with travel insurance. To me, it's an absolute no-brainer, particularly in light of what's happened over the last couple of months. you know, our travel insurance allows you to cancel for any reason up to the day before departure and get all of your money back, minus the cost of the actual travel protection. I actually was doing a tour yesterday, or doing a presentation on one yesterday for next year. The cost of the tour is $39.99. The travel insurance, the cancellation waiver and travel insurance was $309. So that means, and their tour leaves next September 8th. So they have between now and September 7th, 2021 to cancel for any reason and get all $39.99 back. And to me, that gives you peace of mind. It protects your investment, which is in this, an investment to go on this experience. And then once you go on tour, it rolls over into travel insurance, which would protect you in the event that you have an accident, sickness, trip interruptions, travel delays, trip cancellations, and lost luggage or theft. All of that's covered. I know that it's just, to me, it's better to have this and not need it than need it and not have it, and it protects your investment. So, and like I said, it's canceled for any reason. And it's going to be the same with us going forward. So even if there's a pandemic and you have to cancel, you get all your money back. So with that being said, bring Michael back on. The last thing, anytime you travel with us, you get loyalty of up to 150 to use off your next trip if it's within 12 months. So with that, I'll hand the reins back over to Michael. And thanks for letting me talk about some travel.
Ryan, thank you very much. That was great. Very enjoyable, as someone's already said in the comments. You hit some great spots. I love all of those places. And, you know, before I even ever took an Alaskan cruise, I did Alaska by land, and it's a whole different experience. You haven't seen Alaska if you've only done a cruise or even a cruise tour. You really got to go in there and spend some time to dive in deep. Is true. And there's some beautiful part of the world. And like you said, I mean, you go to the Galapagos or Antarctica or a safari, and of course you see great wildlife, but Alaska's right there too. And America's beautiful, right?
That's right.
So you guys probably saw for about 15 seconds it said Facebook Live. Don't worry, you're not on Facebook. We were just doing a test. We're hoping to be able to have some future talks simultaneously be on Facebook Live. And because I have no idea how to do that, I wanted to practice really quick, but I did that for about 10 seconds and then deleted it. So don't worry about that, guys. Does anybody have any questions? We can promote you to a panelist. Just put in the chat box or let me know. Or I'm going to put on here already, if you unmute yourself, won't show your picture. I mean, it won't show your video unless you want me to, but you can ask away. Just unmute yourself if you have any questions at all.
Michael, this is Bob Orchan. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Bob. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. So Ryan, you talked about some of the practices that you've had to initiate due to, you know, the health crisis we're all living under. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what happens on a bus? I mean, is it every other seat? I mean, how are you kind of doing that?
Well, we actually cut everything in half, Bob. So if, for instance, one of the South Dakota that just got back had 32. We actually utilized 2 buses, and there were still 52 to 53 people, and we had 16 on each bus. So that's what we're going to do. Quite frankly, probably for the rest of the year, and then reassess. But we're making sure on the motor coaches that it probably is every other seat minimally. And with 16 on 52, I think we went every other 2 seats on those particular departures. So for the foreseeable future, at least through 2020, that's going to be the case with us on motor coaches, and hopefully with some breakthroughs both medically and that we're able to, as we get into 2021, we're able to get back to normal. But you know, the most important thing to us is the safety and well-being of our guests. So for the foreseeable future, that's what you're going to see.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I want to say too, one thing you mentioned insurance there at the end, and with a lot of companies, all my clients will know, I frequently advise a third-party insurance or Allianz, but that is not the case with Collette Tours at all. They have an outstanding insurance program that's very reasonably priced in the middle of all this pandemic and so many canceled and suspended tours. It's been there right from the start. There was never any question could it be used or couldn't it be used, and it's been great. So if you do go on a Collette tour, get the insurance for sure.
It's made my life a lot less stressful to not be yelled at by travel agents. So I'm glad we have a solid policy.
We've all learned a lot of, kind of ancillary things that we never knew we would need to learn in this pandemic. And we've learned one thing I already knew. I've been to Pawtucket and visited Collette. They're just a first-class company, and
Thank you.
they've handled themselves well in this pandemic, at least from my perspective. Does anybody else have any other questions? I can't believe Lou didn't ask a question.
I'm just being relatively quiet because I've been to Alaska quite a few times, and I've done both land and tours and cruise tours and such, and I always enjoy going back there. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do the rest of this year if I don't get out of the house. This is day 141, and I'm getting crazy. I want to travel.
Lou, it's so funny. We've had internal conversations, and I've talked to countless agents and guests, and the sentiment is across the board. I think there's a lot of pent up demand for travel, and I'm eager to get back. Just as a normal. I'm biased because I'm in travel, but I think there's a lot of people like that. Quite frankly, I'm excited to get back to it.
Lou, I'd be happy just to take a trip down to Charleston.
Well, you're welcome. Come on down. We can keep social distance in the house. We got a spare bedroom. No problem.
That's awesome.
Oh, man. Well, thanks, everybody, for being here. It's a pleasure. We would love for you to book a Collette tour for 2021. One of those three, or like Ryan said, they have 160 tours, something like that. They're all over the world. They do a great job. And I'd love to help you out. So if you have questions after this, shoot me an email. If I don't know the answer, I'll send it on to Ryan, and we'll get that back to you. And we'd love to see you on a Collette tour. So let us know if we can do that for you. In the meantime, stay well, stay safe, stay at home. And soon enough, we will be traveling. We're going to get on the other side of this storm.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Ryan, thank you very much. Very
Thank you,
enjoyable.
everyone.
Appreciate it, as always.
All right. See you guys.